Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
That's where the Raiders ride right now. The Raiders lose to the Colts. The interim head coach is Antonio Pierce. Let's talk about his performance in this ball game, because it needs to be talked about. So, can I say one thing real quick? So people on Twitter Spaces are fun for me, but I get how people don't go in them. I understand. So
I'm one of those people. I don't go.
Brian, I'll see Brian speak for a second, and Brian's like, "Oh, I'm out of this conversation. I'm out of here." but when I go in and I'm sitting there, I'm listening, and then this whole the Raiders win, it's AP, and then they lose, it's, oh God, Bo stinks. Well, Bo hardly has a boss. His direct manager, is Antonio Pierce. So when he calls a play, it's on Antonio Pierce to say yay or nay to that play, especially on some of these third and ones that were at midfield, where the Raiders did a really bad job of finishing those drives.
I'll say this: if they keep AP, and he's not a play caller, he's not an offensive coordinator, he's not a defensive coordinator, he's never called plays, and you're that CEO type, you oversee everything, and everything is your responsibility. This can't be a situation, and I like AP. I think there's an 80% chance AP is the coach next year, and I'm fine with that if AP is the coach. But we can't get into a situation where if it's O'Connell's fault, it's Bo's fault, if the defense isn't good on a particular game, it's Patrick Graham's fault. The Raider fans are almost moving him into, dare I say, Derek Carr territory, where he can do no wrong because he's not involved with the play calling on either side of the scrimmage. So there's nothing they can say that's AP's fault. So they're trying to find avenues, but AP is involved in the game planning. AP can't stand on the podium and say, we want to be physical, we want to run the ball 30 times a game, and then in third and one, allow to happen what happened over and over and over and over again in the Colts game, and then not be aggressive on fourth and one multiple times. And getting the ball, this offense can't score. And they got the ball into Colts territory multiple times and punted on fourth and one. You can't do that. This team is having a hard enough time finding the end zone and finding field goals. And you have Daniel Carlson. He backed out of, a couple of field goals that would have been in the 55 to 57 range, but you're indoors and you have a top three kicker in your league. You got to attempt some of those. You can't just pin them back, especially if you can't move the football. And AP has the headset on, and he hears the play call on third and one. When he hears pitchy, woo-woo, let's give the ball to Jacoby Myers and throw it back and do that, he needs to say no, run the football. And then to have it happen and then see what happens resulting in a punt, and then it happened again, and then it happened again, and then it happened again. At some point, AP's responsible for that. And he needs to sit down with Bo and say, Bo, this is how I want you to call the game. I want to be physical. I want to do this. If it's third and short, we're going to go for it, run the football. We'll go for it on fourth down in certain parts of the field. And this is what being a head coach in the National Football League is all about. It's situational awareness. It's game management. It's clock management. His clock management was horrible again, and that seems to be a continued issue. We don't notice it when they win 30-6. We don't notice it in the Chiefs game because the Raiders were able to run the clock out at the end and it didn't matter in the final 3 or 4 minutes. But his end of halves and the first halves, other than the Giants game where they actually were aggressive and threw the ball and got a field goal, have been bad in every game. Well, taking timeouts to the locker room, penning them. You want to play the field position game on fourth down and pen them deep with under a minute left and you have 3 timeouts and they're inside their 5. You have to use the timeouts. You can't just let them run out the clock and go to halftime. You have a kicker who can make a 60-yarder. So AP needs to grow there, and obviously it's a tough ask. He didn't ask to be the interim coach. He was offered it and he accepted it. But big picture-wise, moving forward, Those are things that he has to get better at. And if AP keeps this job, AP's never installed an off-season OTA program and gone through and set up everything you need to do in the off-season, daily, weekly, OTAs, mini camps. Like, he's never been a part of that. So he's going to have to learn on the job through all of that. This isn't as easy as him just, chanting Raiders in the locker room after a win. There's a lot of chinks in the armor here. It wouldn't, to no fault of his own, but I often sit there and think, like, do these coaches, and this is not an AP thing, this is all coaches watching football the past, couple of weekends. Like, if you're a position coach and you're not a play caller or not a head coach, do you not run scenarios through your head when you're at a game? Like Washington last night, take three knees, game's over. Like, to say Antonio Pierce has never been a head coach, so he doesn't know game management, to me says he hasn't been paying attention when he's been standing on the sidelines for the last umpteen number of years as a player and as a position coach. So I don't buy that. I don't think game management skills are something that, are going to evolve completely over 2 or 3 years of being in that position. You kind of have them or you don't. Like, it's not something where you need to rely on someone else to tell you what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, you're talking to two people who want AP to be successful. And I think that, like, I don't like that part of coaching. I just think is weird to me as well. Like, I don't know how you go through all these things and you're not going through some real-time game scenarios where, like, we're in the middle of 8. Like, what do we do when what do we have? Hey, Bo, what are you playing for? We're at the opponent's 40-yard line. I don't really want to punt there, but I want to go for it. Like, it's third, it's 4th and 1. Like, what do we got? The 4th and 3. What do we got? Like those situations are huge. And like taking taking timeouts to halftime is just, that's brutal. Like, you're
if you're going to pin them down there, use the timeout so you get the ball back.
Yes, and then you're doing a poor job yourself, and you're also letting the other team off the hook. Like, you're not even forcing them to get a first down. Like, that's just not good. That's not good football on your part. So yeah, it's a tough spot, but it's a spot where, like, I feel like you got the time to sit there and get better at all of this. Like who, like, I mean, that should be like those should be like the number one things on game day, how you want to run shit. And then if you don't know how to run shit, that's fine. Like, I don't know how to do certain things, but like, I don't care if you YouTube it. Like, find look up the worst game scenarios and the time management situations in NFL history. You can go out there and you can go and get better from that. Like, I don't know what is, like, if Marvin's there, that's great. I'm glad Marvin Lewis looks great in silver and black. Everybody does, because it's great color combination. But what are y'all talking about? Like, what, like when you talk to Tom Coughlin, like, what are y'all talking about? Like, how are they helping you become a head coach and have that interim tag get lifted off? Like, yes, you got the backing of the fans, you got the backing of the crowd, you got the backing of everybody. Like, you got the slick car, you got you got all the memorabilia that everybody wants when you're we're rocking these jackets. We want you to be successful, but like, that part he gotta finish. That's the part where he gotta finish. Yeah, he's not finishing that part at all.
Yeah, and I go back to game planning because Aiden O'Connell didn't complete a pass for 3 straight quarters against the Chiefs, and they got out of there with a win because of the running game. You're facing a Colts team who, let's be honest, I've watched the first 3 quarters and all 22. I haven't finished the game, but like, the Raiders ran the ball very well when they wanted to. When they wanted to run downhill, they were moving people.
Yep.
They ran a lot of duo in this game. The game plan from snap one should have been, we're giving the ball to Zamir White 30 times today, and we're going to pound this team. Or we're going to play action and throw the ball down the field, which, again, they didn't really do. To come out and basically have Aiden O'Connell try to throw the ball around the yard in the first half over and over and over and over again, knowing that he couldn't do that last week. I know you're trying to build his confidence, but that's not going to help you win this game. They got 3 points in the first half, and then when they started to run the football in the third quarter, they went right down the field. So that's on AP too. Like, we can say, Well, he's not calling the plays. Bo is. AP needs to sit there and say, Bo, we run the football this week. We're going to turn around and we're going to give it to number 35 and let him wear this team out. Didn't happen. So we can blame Bo, and Bo deserves a lot of blame for this game on how they did in the third and short, fourth and short situational things, and then kind of how they started this game. All of that falls under AP if he's the CEO who oversees everything. If AP is the defensive coordinator, he's calling the plays and he's focused on the defense and letting Bo do what Bo wants to do, I can see that. But that's not what's going on in Las Vegas.
Yeah, no question about it. I'm not. Yeah. So as far as the whole Bo Harvey part of it is, like you talked about, like what coaches do, like whatever, and like the position coaches do, and like are they just so, like, if you were a quarterback coach, right? Don't you want to at some point be a play caller? So like, I'm not saying for him to like know, like to be like, okay, boom, know everything off the top of his head, but like some of these play calls that are coming, like how is that, like the shotgun run, like the a deep pass? I mean, like I thought maybe like because they were having that play call on 3rd and 1 that they were going for it on 4th automatically, but like that wasn't
Not
that.
with AP. Field position, baby.
It's real position. Like what are your thoughts about his whole situation with play calling?
Yeah, he's obviously, it's a first time play caller, and you can see that. There's certain times in the game where it looks like, I'm not going to say he's overwhelmed, but like it's almost like he's just picking plays off the play sheet and hoping something works. He's not really setting a lot of things up throughout the game. And then he's got these trick plays in his back pocket, and it's almost like he just wants to show on everyone what he's installed that week. I have this trick play, I want to use it. Like, you shouldn't be using the pitchy woo woo to Jacoby Myers on 3rd and inches. And by the way, looking at the all 22 that play, the defense wasn't fooled at all. Chucker was double covered, and the guy coming across the field, I think DeAndre Carter was the receiver that was coming across, but he was covered too. So like no one was open. But that play wasn't even designed to throw the ball towards the end zone. Like they're both running like basically a corner route and a crossing route. Like if you're going to do something like that, run it vertically, but don't run it there. And he's almost falling into like kind of what Josh McDaniels did a lot, is like soon as they cross midfield or get to the 35, 40-yard line, here comes all these trick plays. And these teams know by this point that's when the Raiders are going to try to do those. So there's no real, it's kind of predictable of when they're going to do it, but this is why I keep going back to it. If AP's the coach, and I know there is a section of Bo Hardegree stands out there because I get them sending me messages every week about how like Bo, it's not Bo's fault. He needs a quarterback. Like he needs to develop. And it's almost like because he's wearing the Raider, people look right past because he's wearing a Raider,
Yep, it's
polo.
crazy.
Like
It's
Bo
crazy.
Hardegree, Bo Hardegree might be a good offensive coordinator in 5 years. He's not ready right now. And
Yep.
I'm not handing a rookie quarterback to him right now
Yep.
because this offense this team has a chance to be good next year if AP and Graham come back and they can make a couple additions and they get the quarterback situation figured out. If this defense plays like it is this year, this team has a chance to win 10, 11 games next year. And it's going to come down to whether or not the offense produces.
Yep.
And that's going to come down to who the play caller is. I know these retread names, Raider fans get scared to death when you start telling them names of failed head coaches that were good offensive coordinators. But there has to be some experience. There has to be a veteran calling plays that set things up, that's gone head to head against these coordinators. Like Bo Hardegree is not going to out coordinate Bill Belichick and Vic Fangio and even Gus Bradley to an extent last week. And you have to, it's playing chess. You're up there, you're matching the coordinator for the other team. And the Raiders have a hard enough time getting the play call in for the situation, let alone trying to scheme something up for what the defense might be throwing at them. So AP comes back. I'm sorry, Bo. I don't see any situation where Bo Hardegree back as the offensive coordinator. AP has to go out and get an established veteran offense coordinator, maybe someone that's even been a head coach that can help them grow there as well. I know a lot of people are going to hear that and say Adam Gase. I didn't say Adam Gase. That name didn't come out of my mouth, but like maybe they go that route. Maybe they go. I mentioned Darrell Bevel the other day, and people were losing their minds. But the guy's been an offense coordinator for 15 years. I get it. He called a passing play on the 1 yard line in the Super Bowl instead of giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch. That was 10 years ago. The guy's been in Miami for 2 years. Maybe he's learned something there. Give him an interview. Just see what he says. Like, but whoever it is, it has to be someone that's done this and has been successful doing it in their career. It can't be a first-time play caller because
Yeah.
AP has enough that he needs to learn on his own as well as a head coach.
If you are a member of Raider Nation and like, listen, you can give you have a right to give us shit for anything we put on Twitter or whatever. But if you want Antonio Pierce as your head coach and you scoff at Daryl Bevell as your offensive coordinator because of a play that happened 10 years ago, and you see that he's actually doing what he's doing right now, and he's been in the game for a long time. He's working with the offense in the National Football League right now, and
He's
that
the
is
passing game coordinator and the
yeah,
quarterback coach for the best offense in the league.
yes. So, like, with that being said, and it's not like a offense where the quarterback is like running around and doing all kind of craziness. Like he's in the pocket, letting it rip, and he's making the quick, concise decisions. Like we need to like stop worrying about like bullshit like that because that's not reality. Like the reality is the dude is a quality offensive head coach, and you're not going to get like a young, brilliant, whoever you think may be a brilliant mind, a young dude with no experience working with AP. That does not work. Like he needs if you want AP, you have to have a veteran play caller with him. And let's be honest, you got to have a veteran defensive play caller with him because he's not a defensive play caller. Like this is not. I don't think it's a problem what's going on with AP there, but like AP, if he wants to run the show, like he has to have those pieces there, and that piece may be Adam Gase. Not thrilled about the prospect of Adam Gase. I don't want somebody who's not in the game right now. Like I just don't. I don't like people like that. But like Bevel would be a good choice if you can get him there. I don't know exactly how the inner workings of the Dolphins work, so I don't know about how their OC, Frank Smith is. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what he actually adds to the scenario, but like let's really think about what we're saying when you're worried about that. I mean, like you have the guy you want to say coach, and then you're gonna nitpick because of a play. The Raiders should win a Super Bowl, trying to win the second one, and be at the 1 yard line. And like, can we get to that point before we start dissing what play caller was? Can we get to that point before we start doing that? Because that's back in the day where Russell actually was cooking.
And I'm not here saying that Daryl Bell should get the job. I just mentioned he's a guy that should get an interview, and he will get interviews across the league. And you would hope that his 2 years in Miami, learning that's the system in the league right now, the Kyle Shanahan,
Yes.
Mike McDaniel system. And the Raiders have pieces to kind of run that if they wanted to, minus the quarterback. But I get it. Daryl Bevell was not good in Jacksonville under Urban Meyer for however long that was. But he's been an interim coach twice, like in Detroit and I believe in Jacksonville. He was named the interim coach. So he has respect in the locker room from the players that have done that. He's had success, I believe, in Detroit, Minnesota, Seattle. So this isn't like a one-time wonder. He's been I think he was a top 8 or 9 scoring offense in 5 of the 15 years he's been a play caller. So this guy, it's not like he's gone out there and not been good at his job. But I would much rather take a chance with that than go get a quarterback. Like I hear Brian Greasy's name a lot. Brian Greasy's been a coach in the NFL for 2 years, and he's never called plays.
Yeah.
Give me the other guy because they're in the same system, and he's called plays for 15 years. Is he a better coach than Brian Greasy? I don't know, but I know that he can structure an offense and call plays, and that's something I don't know if Brian Greasy can do. And I know he was a quarterback in the league for a long time. Someone when I mentioned Brian Greasy to me, and I said, yeah, he's never called plays. He's only been a coach for 2 years. Decided to tell me that Brian Greasy has played more football in his life than I have, and that's true. I don't know what that means to him versus Daryl Bevell. I don't know why my non-NFL career was thrown into that, but sometimes these people on Twitter, it's so extreme. Just relax. Like it's just a name. I didn't say hire him. Like we're gonna throw names out of head coaches and GMs and this, and if it's not the guy you like, it doesn't mean that guy is dog poo. Part of my language I didn't want to cuss on YouTube, but I think the Raiders will move. There's like I said, 80% chance in my mind that it's AP. If it's not, it's probably Jim Harbaugh. It's going to be one of those two, in my opinion. And Now you have to weigh the dynamics of the factor. If it's Jim Harbaugh, is Champ Kelly around? I'm going to say probably not. It might
No.
be Ed Dowds or someone else. And I'm an Ed Dowds guy, so I'm fine with Ed Dowds coming in. But like, what's the power structure look like? Does Jim Harbaugh have final say on the roster? Because I don't want Jim Harbaugh if it's final say on the roster. He controls the draft, and you're going to give him a 10-year, $100+ million contract. Been there, done that. If he wants to come in and coach this team and let someone else be above him as the GM, even if it's his buddy Ed, as long as Ed has power on the roster, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be very interesting next probably 3 to 4 weeks in Raider Nation.
Yeah, it will be. And I don't see Jim is here for a good time, not a long time. So, I mean, it'll be really good. If you look at his track record, it'll be really good. Those 3 years in San Francisco, that record is, I mean, I think what is he like 45 and like 19? Like his record is phenomenal. I mean, 13 wins,
He's
13
been in
wins.
Michigan for 9 years, so I think that's kind of a bad rap against him at this point. He was at Stanford for a little bit too. It's not like
I
he was there for 2 or 3 years and bolted.
I know. I just don't know if the NFL thing. I mean, isn't it I mean, like the whole dynamic of him in the Niners upper echelon, upper echelon, like as far as like the final say on stuff like that. Like, I mean, is he
Well,
gonna?
it's Trent Baalke.
Well, I mean, man, listen, they have some good teams. I mean, I know it was Trent. I mean, Trent is a survivor. He'll be most GMs don't get multiple jobs. He's a survivor in this league. I give him that part of it. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I mean,
Jim's not coming to work for a GM that he doesn't sign off on either.
oh, I mean, it's gonna be somebody he knows. I mean, it's gonna be.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be. You're looking at the whole power structure of Graham. Graham's gone. Kelly's gone, and AP's gone. But the defense, I would say that I think it was Daniel Jeremiah tweeted out that the league is both college football and pro football are trying to get pieces from the Ravens and Michigan Wolverines defensive staff because they're running the defense that's doing that everybody wants to imitate around the league. So that's something to think about too as well. So so you'd be getting that as well. I mean, if he finds Los Angeles more attractive because they have Herbert, then that will be a situation too as well. I think the Raiders have shown that they will pay a head coach, multiple years, a lot of money. I've never seen I don't even think when Schottenheimer was there, he was a top money coach for the Chargers. So we'll have to see as far as that goes. Anything else on the AP dynamic?
No, I think AP's proven that he deserves a chance. I don't think like coming out of the Chiefs game, I said something where like 90-95%. I think it kind of took a hit with kind of what happened. That Colts game was winnable. That's not a great Colts team by any stretch of the imagination, but the Raiders came out flat in the first half. And they just didn't look like they had any juice after playing in Kansas City. They rallied a little bit. Let's be honest with ourselves a little bit. A lot of that came in the second half, late in the game, where the Colts were kind of backing off on defense and stuff like that. So the final score probably wasn't indicative of didn't feel like a 3-point game throughout the whole game. It felt like the Raiders really struggled scoring and just they didn't get the turnovers. The defense didn't play as well as it had. And I would say, the offense didn't perform very well. The defense, the special teams. All in all, I just don't think the Raiders played a very good game. They didn't play good enough to win.
Yeah.
And that's a problem because the Raiders, again, went on the road. Other than the Chiefs game this year, haven't really played well on the road. And this is another game to say that they haven't done that. Now they come home. We'll see what happens.
So here's my thing too, is I'm looking at the stats real quick. Like Gardner Minshew threw the ball 23 times. They rushed the ball 29 times in the game. So you have the worst quarterback, one of the worst quarterbacks in football. He doesn't move, all those things like that. And I know you might look at that secondary and say, hey, we might be able to get some passing yards against those corners on the outside. But how do you think it's a good idea to throw the ball 47 times opposed to rushing it 25 times? in a game that was never like, and they were never up like, they're never up big in this game. Like they were always up. You're always around one score in this ball game. Like I don't know, that dynamic is just like in my head. I'm like, yo, how do you not like kind of see that trend? Like you want to like, I don't like, you got like if you're AP, like, yo, dude, like where my runs at? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when you're on the headset, like put that thing down, slam it down, and say, where's my running back at? Like, you know what I mean? Let's run the football a little bit, because like how many times did they get, like they'll get 9 yards on first down, and then pass, punt. Like, I mean, what are we doing?
I think that happened at halftime because they came out in the second half and really ran the ball that drive that went down the field. Now they did get the benefit of the roughing the punter that kept that drive alive, and then they were able to punch that in for a touchdown. But they didn't really stick to the run in this game, and that should have been the game plan.
Yeah,
And like I
some
said,
some
that ball's on
balance.
AP's plate as well. He's the head coach, um, who doesn't have a specialty on either side of the ball, so his job is to oversee everything that's going on the field. And he's learning on the job. And this is, again, like a lot of these fans want to go out. If it's not AP, they don't want Harbaugh. They want Frank Smith or some other guy that's never done it. And you're going to be going through the same issues with those guys, most
Yep.
likely, that you're going through right now with AP. So I know everyone wants shiny and they want new, but this is what happens when you have shiny and you have new, is you have these issues pop up on game days. And it's something that these coaches have to get better at over time. And it doesn't always just click. Sometimes it clicks. It can happen. Sometimes it doesn't. So it's a risk you're taking. If you're getting a retread. I know people hate that, and Jim Harbaugh's a retread, but Jim
Yep.
Harbaugh's been in this in the NFL, and he's been in college. He's coaching in the national championship game next week, so he's not away from the game. He's out of touch. I saw some people saying, "What has Jim Harbaugh ever won?" Apparently, they've never gone to his Wikipedia page and
Yeah.
seen what he's done in his career, no matter whether that was at USD, Stanford, San Francisco, and now at Michigan.
Yeah. I mean, this whole we get into this like world where like if you don't have a championship, you suck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, look at let the Raiders have that record over that period of time, through that 3 or 4 year span, and then we'll take it from there before we say somebody stinks for not having a championship. I mean, I know Kyle Shanahan gets a lot of shit, and I jokingly give him shit once in a while, but like his record as a head coach, I'll take that any day of the week for the Raiders. Like, let's just be real. Patrick Graham in this ball game, how you thought the defense looked before we wrap it up?
I haven't had a chance to see the all 22 of it. I will say, like, I didn't think the pass rush got home. Max Crosby didn't really affect this game. Malcolm Kuntz didn't really affect this game. They had a sack early with Adam Butler, who's becoming
Oh,
really good at holding offensive linemen and getting away with it. So that's in the Raiders' benefit that he keeps doing that until they call it.
yep.
But I just didn't think I just didn't see the same, run to the ball, the tackling. The Colts ran the ball pretty much when they wanted to. You didn't see that stout run defense,
Mm.
and there was some blown coverages again on the back end that led to some big explosive passing plays, which the Raiders just haven't done. Now they can't do that every week, but everything kind of came to the surface with all three units on the same day, and that's what happens. You're going to lose games to teams you should probably beat if it doesn't go your way. But you saw when this pass rush isn't eating, this defense still has some issues.
Yeah. I mean, and then they play a style defense where like they rely on the front four to get pressure because they don't blitz a whole lot. So they want to play coverage behind that. So we'll see. I'm not gonna when you go on the road, I go right to the point total, and without him being without Jones being called off sides, they gave up 20 points in this ball game. And I thought that, that is all you can ask for when you're on the road in National Football League. Like, you can't ask for more than that. So they did that twice this year. They lost both games to Miami and to Indianapolis. Both Indianapolis and Miami could be on their way to the playoffs. I think Miami's already on their way to the playoffs as well. Do you have anything else on this game? Because I found that question that I wanted to talk about if you're good to go on that one.
No, I'm pretty good. The Raiders went on the road. They didn't see it, and I will say this. It's frustrating, but they weren't. Even if they won that game, they probably weren't making the playoffs. I know a lot of people are frustrated. Like if we would have won that game, but if you look at it, the teams they needed to lose last week didn't. So
Yeah.
if they would have won the game, they're probably in the same spot. So at this point, it's another game. It's fun. We got to see Zamir White. We got to see some of the younger guys play. Got to see Trey Tucker get involved a little bit on offense, and that's going to happen again next weekend against Denver. I would be shocked if we saw Josh Jacobs, Colton Miller, and some of the guys that are dinged up, the veterans, play in that game.